Hello, all you fine feathered individuals. It is League Unlocked. My name's Eric, here with Mark. And listen, we didn't do shows on the weekend, and I don't know if you were paying attention, but there were some games, there were some bangers, and there was pretty much everything went as predicted, right? Just as we thought.
Not quite. This is one of my favorite things about Worlds, because obviously there's a couple opportunities, and anytime, especially when you're doing a show like ours, where we try to pick a side, not sitting on the fence as often here, try to get right or wrong. Sometimes you're going to be wrong, and sometimes you got to let the community dunk on yourselves. And yeah, we've certainly got a couple opinions that didn't pan out the way they did, and other analysts as well. But look, I got a couple things right, and now time to sit down and look back at a little bit of the weekend, but obviously, more importantly, the games that just happened.
Yeah, we'll kind of touch on how Group B ended, but first we'll go through the wrap-up in Group A. Started today with Supermassive versus Team Liquid. Both of them were 2-0 coming into this match. Supermassive had looked really good in their 2 wins. Armut is looking like one of the best top laners in the play-in stage so far, but it was Team Liquid coming away with it. You had the Shen Twitch combo for Liquid, and Jensen Silas was muy bueno. Very good.
Yeah, the first time we're seeing Silas pick up a win so far at this World. So nice job by Jensen turning around that 0% win rate on the champion. And it keeps going for Team Liquid. The theme in this game was the veterans coming through. And yeah, that's been what it was in the first 2 games as well. Sure, tactical definitely stepped up, especially in that Mad Lions game. People want to give him a lot of that praise, and rightfully so. But for the most part, when you've watched the victories in the play-ins from Team Liquid, it's been on the strength and plays from the veterans on their team. This one specifically shouting out the guy that should have, our MVP from the North American region, and should have now really making us look silly for not having him on that top 20 players list, because my man Core JJ down in the bot side doing some major work in this game.
And imagine giving Impact Shen in 2020. Come on, Supermassive. So
imagine giving anybody Shen in 2020.
All of a sudden, he's insane now. So 3-0 for Team Liquid. Supermassive 2-1. Second match were a couple of other squads. Mad Lions versus Legacy, and the OPL. It's the coming out party in 2020. It's everybody's coming out party. Mad Lions, they are watching what LGD are doing and saying, you know what? We can do that too, boys. We can disappoint the fans.
Oh man, this is at times is what you're watching with these Mad Lions games, and something that a lot of people have touched on here and there over the last couple of weeks, and it started a little bit, is that maybe as far as the teams that benefited when we did make a change to going to play online, the Mad Lions were immediately one of these teams that jumped up in how their communication looked and how they were playing when everyone else was seemingly dealing with the issues of playing from away from the stage and whatnot. Now you see them on stage. Now you're playing on stage. Now the other team's playing on stage, and we are seeing some things that look to be those little bit of a slip-ups that can come in communication, things that you wouldn't have seen before, you're seeing now, and thinking about the time. It's not just the pressure, right? So that is something to examine with their play. But even at that point, you can still ask for better performances all across the board. Last time we were here and we were talking about, okay, it wasn't great, but certainly you can fix this, and this needs to be fixed, but that's okay. It's everything. It's everything, and every spot of Mad Lions has a right, and the fans have a right to demand it to be better at this point from what we've seen this year.
And it's not, you can't just say they don't have the experience, especially in play-in stage, because look at these other teams. It's first international events for most of the teams that are at this event, so that's not really an excuse. I think Shadow's the main guy who we've seen underperforming, but let's give some credit. The reason play-in stage has been so exciting so far is the favorites are faltering, LGD and Mad Lions, but the rest of the competition is at another level here at 2020, and Legacy showed up big.
Yeah, that's something that I'm really excited to talk about, because yes, analysts like ourselves included get these things wrong when you're talking about these teams and judging their strength, and the way it looks is, yes, underperformance from the Mad Lions and LGD alongside people possibly overhyping them. You can look at that as one of the reasons you want to add to, but at the same time, you can't discredit, and you have to add in the value. It depends on how much you want, and I think it's pretty darn high this year of the play-in teams and from the wildcard regions, and how they're playing, how they're being aggressive, how they've approached it. And the other important thing as well, obviously the change in the format, having it be this single round robin where you don't have one of these opportunities where if you slip up, you got a chance to fix it in that next match, go 1-1. It's do or die right from the get-go. And a lot of these playing teams are bringing that heat to these major regions. And look, they're not always ready for it.
And Mad Lions couldn't handle that heat. They dropped to 1-3, which means the next match, they were sitting waiting, and we actually had Europe cheering for North America because Team Liquid, all they have to do, they beat INTZ, who are 0-3. INTZ goes to 0-4. They're out. Mad Lions still have a chance. And Team Liquid, they go right through to the group stage. But, that's not the North American way, Mark. Team Liquid, of course, didn't want to make it easy, and maybe it was a 5-head move because they were just trying to get a tilted Mad Lions team out in the group stage.
Hey man, that's how you activate the trap card right there. Anytime EU needs something from NA, that's that trap card activating right there for a little bit of extra disappointment, and that's what you had going on in that matchup. And of course, when we talked about the positives for Team Liquid, man, getting out to this 3-0 start, the play of your veterans, tactical stepping up. This is 3 steps forward, 1 step back right here in this game was the way you looked at these performances.
They were in control, and it was just they got caught out a few times, and it snowballed.
Right. That's something that we need to look at. Yes, number one, this is the first game where you really can look at a different draft, a deviation from very standard drafts that we've been seeing from Team Liquid, and that's something we've seen all year. They've looked obviously the best and more comfortable on those type of standard compositions and how they execute. That wasn't the issue, though. The draft came through, and they did execute early. They found these advantages. They had the strength on the Renekton and on the Twisted Fate where you wanted it to be. And then they kind of sat on that power. They sat on that gold and didn't further push it, didn't be proactive, didn't extend those things, which, as you and I know, these things are eventually either going to fall off, and especially into certain compositions, or not be pushed to the max. And that's what you saw going on there, combined with, as you said, getting caught out a couple of times, pushing up someone. Unfortunately, rookie tactical. There we go. A little bit stepping forward too many times, pushing that wave in mid lane that didn't need to be, and getting caught out without your flash. That was a situation where you look at these mistakes, you look at the falters here from a point of strength, and you're still thinking mostly positive about Team Liquid. But this is absolutely, when we were talking about, might be a slip up, might be a little bit of some rookie play come through. This is the type of loss that we were talking about for Team Liquid.
And you saw one of the coaches, Croissant, say for Team Liquid, INTZ were giving them the most trouble in scrims and on stage. They handed them their first loss. So a little bit of shout out and credit to the CB Law squad, even though they did start 0-3. So we were guaranteed tiebreakers after that. But before we even got to the tiebreakers, you had Legacy versus Supermassive, who were sitting tied at 2-1. The winner would play Team Liquid in that tiebreaker for first place to advance to the main stage. And the OPL boys, they showed up versus Mad Lions. They showed up versus Supermassive again, and Ray's in the bot lane. We talked about his positioning earlier in the week, but he had himself a fantastic Ezreal game. He finished 15-3.
You love to see that. I tell you what, there's a couple times, and there's been a couple points in the meta in the past where Ezreal hasn't looked as skillful. That's not the case, obviously, right now, and especially watching that game, the skill coming through from Raze down on the bot side, the damage coming through from the Ezreal, and that's exactly what the OPL needed to push on. And look, fantastic work from them, making sure that they are the ones pushing on, because look, we talked about them. We talked about this being a region that in the past has been so close, has pushed, has been one of these teams to pull off these upsets, but they needed that extra step. They needed that one more win to push forward. Hey, you got it this time.
Yeah, they absolutely dominated the OPL this year, as we've talked about. And Raze even had a little bit of failed BM at the end, or maybe it wasn't failed. Maybe it was fully intended for him to die to that Lulu. But they were obviously fully confident. 2 wins in a row to start off their final day of group stage action in play-ins to book themselves a ticket against Team Liquid. And for Supermassive, they went 0-2, and Armut has, I mentioned before, been a standout performer this whole split, but the bot lane hasn't quite wasn't there today for Supermassive.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where you need to be looking for the criticism. Zeitnot and the rest of his bot lane has not provided what you needed. And as far as looking for the engages and how you got your victories, yeah, that's what you were getting. You were getting very good performances out of that duo of Zeitnot and Snowflower, but not coming through this time. And that's what really, pretty obviously was what hurt them in these losses.
So now with those, we advance to the tiebreakers, because just like Group B before it, you got to have a couple of tiebreakers. It's so easy to get them in this format when you're playing these 4 games. I'm glad they didn't take in head-to-head or anything. Team Liquid already beat this squad, so they don't need a tiebreaker. No. That's no fun. You got to do it again. You got to earn it through a tiebreaker. But we start with the losers one, and yes, Mad Lions 1-3 going up against INTZ. And you'd think the guys would be locked. Okay, this is actually our tournament. You lose this and you're out. You're out of the event. But man, it was, as they say, a banger on the Rift. It was INTZ. They had a Baron. They were in control. It seemed it wasn't a big gold lead, but they had a gold lead for 90% of the game.
Yeah, and this is one where even regardless of the result, you look at the individual performances and some of the decision making that came through in these tense pressure moments, and to me it's a failure on the Mad Lions side when you're looking at these players and how it went through. It's not meeting the bar that it needs to be, and especially the bar that's going to be set at the group stage.
And it was the Kog'Maw mid for INTZ in this match, something we hadn't really seen in play-ins. We've seen it throughout the year, of course, but it didn't give you confidence because it was almost an even game. Mad Lions, sure, they played one team fight well, and then the game was closed out, but you look at it, the whole game as a whole, and there's still so many question marks to have with Mad Lions, and I thought that they'd be a better best of 1 team than best of 5s. So now going into best of 5s, where they're going to have to win 2 of them, by the way, it's not just 1 because they're going in as that 4th seed. I don't have the utmost confidence, especially with the competition around them, that they'll get out.
And again, we talked about this. This is all across the board. This isn't just one player, one spot. This is everywhere for the Mad Lions. Arome has been outclassed by almost every top laner so far in this group, and that's a big issue. Well, then the next big issue is Shadow's play he's been a shadow of himself, obviously.
Lilia did not look good.
The brutal and obvious call, the shadow of a shadow. But man, yeah, the Lilia, of course, for everybody has been that, especially for these Mad Lions and everything else. You look at the mid lane, even Humanoid, someone that has this experience from being at Worlds, should be that pillar that you can lean on. The guy that is going to be the strength. And yeah, he's having to absorb a ton of bans, obviously, given that he is a big strength looking in. But his performance, his carry performance has not been there the same way it's needed to be.
He's been up in CS, he's been up in levels, but he hasn't had that impact in fights.
Yeah, the fights have not been the same. And then down to the bottom side, you can look at both Carzzy and Kaiser, and the impact has not been there from what they should be. The advantages that they should have been either to get either in lane or in these team fights has not been there for them. And it falls to the same level as it's not exactly the same, obviously, but when you look at the disappointments for the Mad Lions and disappointments of a team like LGD, man, this is not looking good for these squads that were supposed to really put on a show, force this and flex this power in the play-ins parts.
And now they're going up against Supermassive in that first round of the best of 5s. And I don't know, at this level, Armut and Cacao are going to annihilate Shadow and Arobe in that topside matchup.
Yeah, that's certainly my big concern heading right into this one, because that has absolutely been the weakness for these Mad Lions, let alone the underperformance of those roles, even to the norm. That would be the concern when you're heading into the Supermassive lineup. And the form that you have seen from Supermassive hasn't been exactly all perfect, but you did say it. The one that has been in that top side. And of course, Cacao has looked like the Cacao that everyone's been excited to see, and he has been delivering these performances. You know that attention is going to be heading towards those weaknesses on the Mad Lions.
This tournament might only get spicier when the best of 5s are rolling around, which is why North America and Team Liquid fans alike rejoice that they don't have to take part in those best of 5s. They had the tiebreaker against Legacy, and this totally opposite than Mad Lions matchup against INTZ. This was a stomp from the get-go. We had Broxa's best performance of World so far. He got the Graves, and they've been drafting heavily, prioritizing around what seems to be a kind of shallow champion pool for Broxa in the jungle, but he got his Graves, the #1 pick he wanted, and he dominated.
I mean, it's not going to matter how shallow the pool is when it's all that they want, when it's the Graves, when it's things of that nature, and then you have the lease in there for Brock. So that's, hey man, that's all you really need right now to make things work, especially when one's getting through in the ban phase, which is another question against a team like Liquid and what Brox has shown. This was the rematch. This is where you wanted to see more from Legacy, right? Obviously, we had seen enough from them on the day that was fantastic to get to this position. But this was your rematch. This is a match where pretty much across every facet, you were handled really, really, in a bad look against yourselves from Team Liquid and how much they smashed you in that first matchup. You made maybe, yeah, I was going to say, one or two improvements, but then I remember, but then there was a couple of things that actually went worse this time around. Unfortunately, it's Team Liquid asserting their dominance as the top of the group.
It was the biggest goal differential of the tournament, almost 8,000 at 15 minutes. 8,000 at 15 minutes, and it was so close to a sub 20-minute game, but it was just over 20 minutes, still the fastest game in play-ins. Team Liquid looked angry after their loss. They wanted no business with these best of fives, and they're going right through to the main stage.
Hey man, Jat gave them the frowny face, and they said, "Oh my God, we made Jat frown. How could we do this?" They got all motivated after that. They turned that frown right upside down, got that victory, taking the top spot.
I think Team Liquid is maybe the only team. I mean, some of these underperforming regions stepped up, but Team Liquid and PSG, who are the two teams advancing, you feel, I think Team Liquid almost overperformed what you were expecting them coming into this play-in stage.
I was expecting to see a little bit more mistakes. That was my expectation from Team Liquid. I thought there'd be a couple more growing pains, a couple of slip-ups here or there. But for the most part, very solid. Obviously, we had the criticisms in their loss, and that's one where, they rightfully so can be criticized and look at some of these mistakes. But this is what we were talking about heading into the group and why we didn't have them number one in the first place. I expected some type of slip-up, and I also expected, obviously, way better performance from a team like the Mad Lions and other things. But when you are looking at Team Liquid and PSG getting out, you got to give them props. And the way that they played, the form that they've shown, you can feel... I think that when you're looking at the two of them, you're feeling about as confident as you've ever felt about a team getting out of the play-in stage.
And now we go before all the action happened in Group A to wrap up. The weekend stuff that we didn't get to, we alluded to PSG taking first, and I mean, Group B was arguably crazier than Group A, but you had PSG versus the Unicorns in a tiebreaker for first, and Unicorns had it, man. They were in control. They were up 5K. It looked like they had it. They got a little bit too excited. They end up giving up 3 kills. PSG gets back into it. But, man, talk about the subs not only filling the role, filling the shoes, but throw contracts at both of these guys in Uniboy and Kongyu, because they were outstanding throughout the entire play-in stage.
Yeah, and this is great because not only have these two guys found, like, look, this is a roster, this is a place that we can come in, thrive, and everybody seemingly is getting along and communicating fantastic so far. This is great. This would be a nice place to sign. And oh, wait, I've also increased my value to be signed in the offseason because of how well things have gone so far. Win-win. It is a win-win, absolutely, for Uniboy and Kongyu. Those are the ones that you would expect, and their performance, huge. But again, that's one of those ones where you're looking at it and you're going, of course, the shoes got to drop, right? The glass slipper comes off, and you're getting your boys back, PSG. But obviously, still feeling good about what you saw there, and looking in the future, that is something we laugh and talk about the free agency fill-in. But you better believe that should be where they're looking first off.
And it's heartbreak for Unicorns because they had such exciting matches. They had the mages in the bot lane throughout the play-in stage. For them to not qualify right away, but they're still that second seed. They're going to play the winner of Supermassive and Mad Lions. And unless Mad Lions 3-0 pumps Supermassive, I'm favoring Unicorns over whoever comes out of that side of the bracket. So their Worlds run, they still have a legit chance at getting to that main draw. And then, Mark, we have to get to them. It's LGD, League's greatest disappointment. I don't know what to say here. I don't know what happened to them. And we'll try to be nice because they're getting roasted far and away enough from the Chinese community. So much so that if they don't get out of play-ins, I'm scared to go home if I'm them. That's how harsh the backlash will be.
Yeah, it's really dangerous actually when you talk about the backlash that they have received at home. It is one that, look, you look at stupid fans in either any of North American, you look at North America, you look at the LAC, wherever you want to go, we got stupid fans. But you look at what they say, and man, you look at the level of what LGD has gotten, you kind of crank it up to 11 is the way it has seemed, and it's really unfortunate, obviously, for these players because, yes, underperformance, yes, not delivering, all these other things that you can peg on them, but there certainly is a level of standard that you need to think about. These are people. Can't be a little bit too harsh, obviously, in these things, but when you examine the play, when you're looking at what we have seen from LGD, and I think a lot of the anger for people are people that haven't been watching this region or don't really pay all that attention to it, and then they hear this hype, they hear everyone talk, they hear us tell you how much better these players, these teams are than the teams that you like, the teams that you watch. And then you see them underperform time and time again, different years, different teams, whatever it is.
What's the hype for? They suck.
You can even throw in a player in a trending line of someone like Peanut, right? Where everyone trends towards the international failures, of course, forgetting about the Lee Sin dominance at MSI, which, yes, MSI Worlds, I know, difference, but still high quality international events, guys. Look, this is one when you're talking about LGD and the things that went wrong. Yes, individuals, but as a whole, when you're talking about the team and the execution, the decision making has not been at the level that it had been for LGD all year long. And then the execution on that poor decision making has not been there. And that's compounding into everything that we talked about earlier about the actual wildcard regions being a lot better, having a lot more firepower, being a lot more volatile in the situation of having a single round robin. That all combined with then the failures and downsides and negatives on LGD has led it to be so explosively bad.
We've seen, listen, they're going to be favorites still against Rainbow Seven. I'm hard-pressed to see them dropping a best-of-5 to them. We've seen previous LPL teams, EDG, drop games in play-ins. They beat KT, they get out of groups. We've seen 2019 FPX. Remember how bad they looked week 1 in the group stage? Oh yeah, how did that tournament end for them? Yeah, they won the entire thing. So I wouldn't be shocked if LGD turned things around, made the run, got to Worlds, and ended up getting out of groups wherever they land.
Yeah, this is one where, again, easy to stick to your guns at this point and say, look, I'm not wrong about LGD. They'll get it together. It's a best of 5. When you really do, and you go back and you watch some of these series and you look back at how they played against IG to get here, an IG that was playing very well at the time. You look at the way that they were winning some of these big matches in the LPL all year round. We're not seeing that LGD. That LGD did not make it to Worlds so far. The way that Peanut and Mark would roam around the map so early, the advantages that they were getting, the dominance that Shie was putting through in lane, the way that Kramer was team fighting, all of that has not shown up to Worlds yet. So all this hype, all the things that we were telling you, all this, oh my God, LGD, they're absolutely going to get out of here. They're going to go to Group C, and man, they're going to be partly favorites in Group C. That type of talk, that can all exist. That can all still come to fruition. But that is based off of the LGD showing up. That was the LGD that booked that spot for the LPL. They haven't shown up whatsoever so far. And again, that level of play and that level of underperformance combined with the step up that we have been seeing, the format, it's that perfect storm for LGD to look as poor as they have.
There's plenty of Worlds left to prove yourself for all these teams. That's it today, though, for League Unlocked. Mark and Eric here with you guys. We'll catch you on the Flippity Flop.